Hey pickleballers, and welcome to another episode of the Pickle Bros podcast. As always, thank you for your likes, comments, and messages, and use code PickleBros at checkout with Carbon for 10% off. Today's topic is DUPR universal? Now, we have heard feedback from many of our listeners, and not everyone's totally enraptured by DUPR, but we are. So as last week with the origin story, you have our permission to check out, use the timestamps to skip through to the parts that you actually want to listen to. But we have some more qualms with DUPR and some suggestions for them to improve. We actually like them. We just want them to be doing a better job. And to kind of gather some data and foster our opinions, Jesse and I ran a DUPR experiment called Battle of the Sexes, which we will get into later. But before we get into all that, as you will see, listeners may not be able to pick up on it quite yet, but our viewers on YouTube will. We are down a man. Our car here is running on 3 wheels. As announced last week, Stolp had surgery, donating his liver to his brother, who is suffering from alpha trypsin 1. I believe I got that right. And we just have so much love, the appreciation for him, the outpouring of love for him from you guys. It's meant a lot. And he actually had something to say about it.
Hello, everybody. Pickle Bro Stolp checking in post-surgery from a liver transplant. Just wanted to say thank you so much for all your kind words, comments, emails, texts, calls. The love and support is so appreciated by me and my family during this time. I just wanted to come on here quick and let everyone know that the surgery was textbook, meaning there was nothing, no complications. It went as smoothly as it could. Both myself and my brother are recovering well. I have been discharged from the hospital for about 3 days. My brother should be getting out today as they are tweaking his anti-rejection medicines to make sure that he's good to go. But he is feeling so much better. New life, new energy. It's so great to see him like that. And I am healing and recovering, albeit with some pain, but to be expected. But check this out. They gave me this live or this real 3D printed version of my liver. And what they did, and they shared this with me, is they took the left side of that, the left lobe, and took out my brother's liver and put the left lobe of mine into him. And it will regrow to full strength within 8 to 10 weeks. And mine will regrow back to full strength in 8 to 10 weeks. So I just wanted to come on here and say everything went so well. I am in recovery and will be out for a couple of weeks from the podcast, but wanted to share this video and let you all know that I'm doing well. And then we got this great new shirt to Recycle Life. So out there, if you are not yet an organ donor, I would highly encourage you to sign up on donatelife.net to become an organ donor. But thanks so much again for all your thoughts, prayers, well wishes. Keep them coming as we recover, and I'll see you all soon.
Absolutely phenomenal. Tim, give me your initial reactions to seeing that.
So we were talking yesterday on Marco Polo, and he actually made a big announcement to us that he's coming home today. Is that right?
Yep.
Or tomorrow? Yeah, today. And we all knew that he would give a superhuman effort in his recovery phase, but even that took me by surprise. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, he was supposed to be in Utah recovering for about how long? Like a month or something?
Like up to 5 weeks.
5 weeks. I mean, just incredible. I mean, we should have saw it coming because
it took him 8 days. 8 days and he's out.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. And of course, he kept us updated from day one, and we were all surprised that he was on there talking to us the day after the surgery, I think. And, just in super high spirits with an unbreakable positive attitude. It shouldn't have surprised any of us because that's exactly who Stolp is. But man, how great is that to see him, just talking like that? Man, he's the best.
He's just incredible. Jesse, quick thoughts on Stolp real quick for everybody.
He is a bona fide hero. And so is the surgeon. I mean, think about the miracle of modern medicine that they're able to take a chunk of his liver and put it into his brother, and then it regenerates in both. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it really is. And he is a hero. And I also think he's a superhero. He had the fastest discharge. This hospital does, I believe he told me, 6 to 10 surgeries a year of this. And in all their history, he's the fastest discharge that they've ever had at this particular facility. And then he goes out and is the fastest discharge. I'm just gonna make the claim in the world of coming home 8 days when you're supposed to be gone for 5 weeks. The dude is an absolute unit. He's a machine. And I have this theory he's going to come back as a 5-0. He's going to come back as a better pickleball player, having not played for 3 months because of this. He absolutely wonderful. We love the guy and are so impressed. But enough
100%.
about him. Let's move on to getting our DUPR check done really quickly, Jesse. We had some action and some movement with everyone's scores this week.
Right. So mine went from 449 to 455, based largely on the battle of the sexes, which we'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
Ian, yours went from 449 to 454. You had a lot of games, and then Tim got a nice boost from 471 to 479. Congratulations, Tim. That's awesome.
Knocking on the door, Tim.
Thanks. Well, you know what else, guys, I'm really excited about? I'm a 5-0 singles player now.
Did you break 5?
I did.
Fantastic.
I'm a 5.02. I'm really excited about that.
And by the way, that's legit. Like, I don't know if I'm willing to say you're a better singles player than you are a doubles player, but it's at least worth having a conversation. You're just wicked good at singles with your tennis background. I'm most impressed with how you can read body language. Like, I think you and I are probably equal in terms of speed and athleticism, or at least really close. But your ability to just pre-read where I'm going to put the ball, it's like it's the most disheartening thing playing you.
Oh yeah, that's 100% tennis right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
However, something of an we wanted to note, we did manage to put together on Thursday morning our first ever 12-man 4-5+ group, and we're not going to give a full recap on, well, I played with this guy and then we went with this guy and this guy. But I do want to share some of our initial thoughts about what it's like kind of to play DUPR competitive at 5 a.m. with 12 world beaters, jumping between different players, your mentality, how to stay positive. So, Jesse, I'm going to throw it over to you first, and then Tim, why don't you kind of talk about it as well? Just kind of give some people advice when they're in these environments, what it's like navigating a continually moving scenario.
Right. So I didn't actually participate in that yesterday, but I know what it's like because I've done 8-person, and I think it's really cool because, so Tim and I participated in PPA Denver, 7-10 days ago, and those scores, at least mine, have not been entered yet, and for DUPR. Whereas this impromptu session that you guys organized within a few hours, the DUPR scores were updated immediately, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we sat around afterwards. Actually, all of it, like 9 of us sat around, and I was like, and we input them by round. So I was like, Mike Lee, go do that. Kenny, add this one in. Jared, add this one in. Like Tim had to get to work real quick, so he didn't get to see that fiasco. But Tim, give me your thoughts on that dynamic of that entire morning.
You guys, I had such a good time. I thought it was great. I thought it was super competitive. Now, environments like that can turn some people off because the emphasis in those environments tends to not be let's have a good time, let's fun and be all smiles. I mean, it was go.
Mm-hmm.
It was serious. It was business. We knew that DUPRs were on the line. And there were guys there that we just don't play with very often. So that was exciting. Like, you knew you were going to be mixing in with a whole bunch of different people and different talents, which brought a lot of, uncertainty. You didn't know what to expect with some of those matchups or how it would go. It was hard to control that environment, which is nerve-wracking. But we played like 7 or 8 rounds of this.
Yep.
We were each played 2-11 and then switched, and all the scores were entered into DUPR. It got heated at times on some courts. Ian, between you and me, we had a little exchange over an Ernie.
Yep.
And it was like, what are we doing? This is kind of why am I being so mean? But it was because I don't know. This stuff means a lot to us. But it was funny at the end of the day. So I was talking to our buddy Mike, and he's just the consummate aura of positivity. That's what he exudes. And he wasn't breaking even in that kind of environment. I mean, he was keeping it light. He was keeping it friendly. Such a good example for all of us knuckleheads who only care about, win, win, win. And I was having a really cool conversation with him about just, how lucky we are to be able to do things like this, and just how fun it is and how important it is to keep that perspective. But it was funny at the very end of it. I'll just say this. You mentioned I wasn't able to stick around and help with the score inputting because I had to go. I pushed it at the very end because I saw an opportunity. I saw how things were lining up. I'm like, okay, if I stay for one more game, I get to play with Bryce against Louie and Mike, and I think we have a good chance there. And it was worth it. It was totally worth it. And that may have been the match that really boosted my DUPR there. So it's just funny how you accept that you might be late for something because of that extra match that might put you over. And that's kind of what I did. And I wasn't late, by the way, so it all paid off. But the entire day I thought it was awesome. And like Jesse said, it's so cool that we can just arrange something like this that is so consequential. I mean, it took us no time to find 12 people. And a lot of those guys were not members of Lifetime. Ali is awesome for letting them show up and play in an environment like that, in a system like that. It came together so quick.
Louis sent that text out Wednesday night, and before or like Wednesday midday, and before we went to bed, we had everything organized, set, done, like DUPR sheets printed out, like we were ready.
Right. So initially he was looking for 4 people because there was a kid that was Justin wanted to play, and he wanted to play with Louis and just to force him. And then I chimed in as the 5th guy. I'm like, well, I'll play if we can get a few more. And that ballooned up to 12 as soon as we started sending text messages out. We had 12 people in like less than an hour. It was this is awesome. It comes together that fast.
Yeah. And that was, Jesse wasn't there. Stolp wasn't there. We could have had a handful of other guys, in our level who we could have pulled 16 together so easily. But just for our listeners and our viewers, we highly encourage, whether you DUPR rank these or not, or DUPR input them, I should say, try and put together special groups. See people you don't see all the time. We had 2 left-handers in this group, which was actually much more challenging for me than I expected.
Me too.
Because I play as beta. Now there's been some comments that people are a little surprised I'm classifying myself as that, and I am trying to work myself into a strong hybrid. But then trying to play beta from the left side with the left, it was just really weird. But it was a good challenge. I'm not sure that the results ended up quite how I wanted in those matches. But those challenges, those different looks, that's how you get better. Playing the same guys over and over again in the same ecosystem, it's good to develop particular skills, but it's not. You can stagnate. So mixing up is very important. But Jesse, you mentioned the PPA tourney that you and Tim did. You didn't do it together, but you both went to the event. And this was PPA Denver that happened last week. Can you guys just give quick little recaps on your performances and how it all went?
Yeah, sure. So I've signed up with Mike Lee to play 50 plus 4.5, and we were the only ones in our bracket. So they decided to lump us together with the 5-0s, which was pretty daunting. But there were a total of 4 teams in the combined 4-5-5-0 bracket, and we placed second. We went 2-1, and we came very close to winning that game that we lost. So I was extremely proud of that, and we had a great time playing. I thought it was a well-run tournament. And then in mixed, my wife and I, we played 4-0, and we went 2-2, and we came again, very close in that final game. If we had won, we would have gone to the bronze medal match. So good time. There was a long wait in mixed doubles between our first match and our second match. It was over 2 hours. That would be my only criticism of the whole experience, but otherwise it was great.
I never understand why those things have to happen. Like PPA was massive, so I'm giving them a pass. Like I don't know what happened, but that's such a big gap. It throws me off. Tim, you also had a really cool experience there. Getting on, you played where the pros play, right, man?
I mean, it wasn't. It felt like I was playing where the pros were playing because we showed up. So my partner was Eli. We actually stopped halfway up there in Castle Rock and got some practice in, and this was dangerous because this was the same day as the Taylor Swift concert, and it wasn't the easiest thing driving into Denver, but we're able to check in, and we got right onto the court because it was right up against our time, and it was kind of nerve-wracking even though we had stopped and had practice and felt pretty good. It felt like we were on stadium court because there were so many people right there watching us, and we're like, just kind of looking over like, geez.
And the courts they had you guys on were kind of those depressed with like the stands on the side, like really cool.
It's
really
like a stadium court. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It was definitely cool. I was loving the experience, but I was a little bit nervous for sure. And we didn't play terrifically in that first match, but we won. And we went 2-2 on the day, lost in the bronze medal round. Our second round match was heartbreaking. Man, I was thinking about that all day. And I don't know if we played our best, but the experience was second to none. My previous tournament experience for a tournament that size, we were waiting around all day. You had no idea when you were going to play. There weren't that many food options. I mean, it wasn't super positive, but this one, it just felt like we had no time between matches, which I'm fine with. I'd rather just go. And that's really how it went. We just kept on playing, very little stoppage between matches. And what was really cool is I was looking for our friend Louie. I'm like, have you guys seen Louie? Asking our buddy Nick. He's like, oh yeah, he's over there watching the pros. I'm like, oh yeah, that's something we can do while we're here because you're just rubbing shoulders with the pros. And there was a moment, it was really cool. Sometimes when you're walking down a hall or something and you see someone coming, it's just you and them. You're like, okay, at what point do I say hi? Is it like when we're like 10 feet away or a little bit closer or not at all? Well, I had a moment like that with Annalie Waters. It's just like, oh, this is awesome. I mean, not awesome that it would be awkward with you and a pro, but awesome that you get to walk by a pro. And I saw lots of pros there. Annalie Waters was on a practice court as I was watching my friend play doubles. It was a fantastic experience. I really, really enjoyed it. And our buddy Louie took home the gold in 5.0. So congrats to him and Bryce.
So good. He and Bryce. It was Bryce's first tournament ever. Bryce played 5-0 singles or pro singles in 50 plus. He had a decent showing, but I don't think he podiumed. And then his first doubles tournament, 5-0, he and Louie took gold. I was very impressed with their performance. Really proud of them there. Guys, so excellent tournament at the PPA. And now we're going to move on to what's your beef. And I just got to admit, like, it doesn't feel right without Stolp. He brings so much energy. He's the best beefer out there.
We could just name this segment after Stolp. Let's just name it after Stolp.
What's your Stolp is what we'll call it. But we're gonna try and do our best because it is a good segment, and I do have a beef. And my beef is when you're in the middle of a high level DUPR ranked league match and the courts around you don't know it and are interfering. And so we had this where Lou and I were playing the league against Justin and Craig, excellent players. We won both games, but they were tight games, very competitive. And on the court next to us, the guy was setting up that little, 2-3 foot ball fence because he was drilling with the machine. And he was like stepping on our court as he was navigating the fence while we were playing. And then he had the machine going. and then he was running behind the back where we are, and it's like, what can he do? Like, we don't have actual fences, right? All the courts are stacked up next to each other. It is a tight space. But I actually ended up, after one rally, I actually put my paddle down and helped him finish setting up because he was so distracting to us. I was like, I just need to get this guy set up so that we can actually focus on what we're doing. So he took out one side where you couldn't do ATPs, and it's not really even his fault, but it was really frustrating that in this high competitive match that we really wanted to win, we had this weird X factor thing just interfere with us. So that's my beef. Kind of, sometimes when you're on the pickleball courts, not everyone is in the exact same mindset as you on any given day.
You gotta deal with those distractions, though, right? And that's what you guys always tell me. You gotta deal with the distractions. You gotta man up. What's up?
I had that thought. I said, what would Tim say? What would Tim say? And then I did the opposite of that. Jesse,
I've been on the other foot. I played in a PPA Austin last year, and I was playing 3-5, and we were next to some very high ranked pros, and our ball would go over there and interfere with their game. I felt so bad.
Oh man, that's true. Jesse, what's your beef?
My beef is with a Reddit user named 003E003. And he wrote, "Could you please explain how playing and reporting scores within a tight cohort can artificially inflate DUPR? I have heard of groups who regularly play against each other and report scores, and their DUPR does appear much higher than my eye test indicates. There is a new podcast called Pickle Bros with 4 hosts who appear to do this." So 003E003 is saying that our DUPRs are much higher than they should be. I must admit I was flattered to see a reference to the Pickle Bros on this Reddit thread, but I don't think our DUPRs are higher than they should be. In fact, you might even argue the opposite. Tim held his own just fine in a major tournament at 5-0. I medaled at 4-5 twice this summer. Well, 4-5-5-0 in one case. And Ian, you medaled at 4-5, and you're way ahead of me at this point. So I don't think that's true. But it doesn't even make sense, right? Because if you play in a tight cohort with each other, it's a zero-sum game. There's no way all 4 of you can keep going up. So it's not even, the argument doesn't make sense. But you do see this a lot online on YouTube, where people will watch a game and they'll say, 3-5 at best, right? They're always
see that all the time.
Right. And I think it's just this, I guess it's a human tendency to sort of downplay what you see on a video and to assume that, well, I wouldn't have made that error, but I think we all have, not all of us, but many people have that tendency. So that's my beef.
I actually will say I've fallen victim to that when it comes to us. I watch our video recaps, we film our games, and I'm like, that wasn't hard. Why did I miss that shot? Or why am I hitting it so slow? Or like, it feels different in real time. It's because the camera is deceiving with placement, with speed, with spin, with the options that are actually available to the player opposite you at that time. And you have to hedge all your bets instead of, 2020 hindsight. You're like, oh, obviously he's going here. Right. So
right.
It's very deceiving.
Yeah. I think like if you watch Deckel Bar serve on a video, you might say, oh, well, that's just an okay serve. But if you ever watch it in real life, or even from a camera, from the angle of the player receiving that ball, it's clear that it's a rocket.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
I'm always impressed when I watch us play. I don't know. I always think it looks good. I'm like, wow, man, we're good.
Oh man. Tim, what's your beef?
All right. So we mentioned the PPA. When you show up for a tournament like that, you're always concerned about, okay, I got to hit my drops well. I got to return well. I got to serve well. All these things that you think of when you're going into it. Guys, why can't we just let the ball go when it's going out? Why can't we just leave it, especially when your partner says out? That was seriously the number one thing that I dealt with at the tournament. At the 5-0 level, like we give ourselves so much credit that, I'm not going to make that stupid mistake. I can't tell you how often I made that mistake that day over the course of 4 matches. And I was feeling horrible for my partner having to watch this continually, even as he was shouting out. And I would still go for it. And at least you can like hit a good shot off of that out ball. But the very last point that we played, the very last point, the way that we got sent home was because I hit a ball. I made contact with the ball. I didn't even hit it over the net or even do anything like useful with it as it was going 10 feet out. So leaves, we don't pay attention to them. We don't practice. I don't know how you practice them. I guess just have someone across the net and just drill a bunch of out balls and just sit there with your hands behind your back. Is that a good way to practice them? I don't know. I don't know if that would duplicate the tournament experience. But seriously, it was so aggravating. And the only thing that made me feel I could hold my head up high is that Eli missed a bunch of smashes. So I felt like we were a little bit even in that regard, but I couldn't say anything because of just all the leaves that I missed. Just, oh my gosh, you guys. It was weighing on me all day. It still is. I can't believe what a stupid mistake that is, and it drives me crazy.
Well, you guys have heard me say this so many times when it comes to hitting an obvious out ball is, I say we're dogs and we see a ball. You can't help but swing at it.
Yeah.
But Tim, I think you are perhaps not, more guilty of it than most, but I think you have a harder time with it than most. And here's why. It's actually a compliment. Your swing strokes, you hone in on the ball so much. And I take short jabby swings, right? Like you get full swings to hit things back. You're so cued in on the ball flight all the time that I think when you're at a high level tournament or you're super focused in, it's like you're just tracking the ball so well, so competitively that you're just like, you forget all the other options that are available to you. It's just like, exactly where the ball is, where it's going, and you're able to track it midair and take it out. So, I see this with you a lot just because you're so good at hitting everything. I'll hit stuff at you that I'm like, how on earth did you take a full swing at that? We were too close. I was too disguised, right? And so, but when you're on championship court or the big stage, I can see why that environment is just like you're like I'm gonna hit everything. It's tournament mode. Every ball is mine, and you just don't leave any bandwidth for the other option, which is out.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's hard. Really
we've all done ATPs and Ernie's and all these fancy shots. Nothing is better than a good leave. That is the most satisfying.
You're so right. You're so right.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys. So it's time for the curtain being withdrawn. Is DUPR universal? Now I want to offer some quantifiers. We don't think DUPR is universal as it claims, right? We don't think the U in DUPR is accurate. And we hypothesized that there are scenarios where men and women, a 50 plus and a 19 plus geography can all weigh in on, is a 5-0 actually equal to another 5-0, excuse me, another 5-0 across whatever cobbled scenarios you want to put together. So Jesse, would you please elaborate on the Battle of the Sexes experiment that we ran to kind of get some data and test our hypothesis here?
Right. And remember that DUPR, the D is for dynamic, which they've given up now. So if you don't play, your score won't change. So the D no longer exists, and the U, we will argue, is also not valid. So that sort of just leaves you with the PR, the player rating. Just call it PER, my PER. But we set out we invited about a half dozen of the top, these are all top 10 players roughly in Colorado Springs, female players, and they're all in the 4-5-ish range. And two women immediately said that they would like to participate in a demonstration match, basically between them and me and Ian. And, if it's universal, then a 4-5 is a 4-5, and it should be very competitive. So we played 5 games, best of 5, 2-11, win by 2. And the two ladies we played against, one is named Lisa, the other is Ellen, and they were 4-4, 4-5. I think Ellen had at the time Ellen had the highest DUPR of any of us, and they're both good players. And we took it seriously. Like, we tried our hardest. At least I tried my hardest, and we played best of 5, and we won. I think it was 11-0, 11-6. 11-4?
4.
Yeah. So it was pretty decisive.
Yeah. And I also played my absolute hardest. Like, they're great players. They know what they're doing. In fact, I think both of them probably have a higher, especially Lisa has a higher pickleball IQ than me. She's been playing so much longer than me. She runs tournaments like she knows the game. So I went all out, and part of me was like, I am not going to lose to these ladies. And also, I want to be respectful. Like, they're good players. Like, they're going to get my best. So, despite whatever the score was, that was our maximum effort. Tim, did you have something to say?
Yeah, just I'm curious to hear what the game style was like. What kinds of tactics did you guys employ? What kind of tactics did they try on their end? Was it more of a drive and bang kind of a thing? Were there drops that were attempted? I'm just curious how this went, because I'm
Jesse, give your thoughts.
Pretty on that. Fascinating experiment.
That's a great question.
We went with what's called the drop and squeeze. So I would do a drop, and then Ian would run up, and Ian is very big. He's very big in the middle, and intimidating and imposing. And even if he didn't touch the ball, just his mere presence there, I think, was rattling to them. So if it was a good drop, they might pop it up, or they might, hit it into the net. And in an attempt to get around Ian, they might hit it wide. So that was the strategy we went with, and it worked really well in that first game. They did adjust a bit, but I think we pretty much stuck with that. Whereas Lisa has a very nice third shot drop drive, and that was difficult to deal with. And then Ellen just speeds up everything, and we got into a couple of knife fights where she got the better of me. She definitely can hold her own with me in a knife fight, but when she's dealing with like having to reset the ball or a slower game, I think it's a bit more challenging for her.
Yeah, oddly enough, well, Jesse's correct about the drop and squeeze. I think let's say there were 10 successful points that worked in our favor due to that strategy. 5 of them were because I never touched the ball. They either hit it into the net or hit it out, because I was narrowing their options of where to go. And especially in that first game, it was very effective. They did adjust and kind of calm down on that approach, knowing that if they just dinked it over, then Jesse was actually going to have to come up the alley and hit a dink or a reset from after hitting the drop, which was actually a good strategy. I think, Jesse, they were getting you on the move. So they kind of ignored me and just played it soft to the angles, to the sides. But yeah, we ended up going much softer than I was anticipating, because both of them are excellent speed players. Like their hands, their drives. Like you said, Lisa's got this like drop drive that was very difficult, very similar to what Jeff has. Like, I'm so envious of that shot. It's very difficult. It's coming at pace, like right at your ankles with the trajectory. So it's like, how do you reset that with a volley? And if you step back, you've got to step back like a full 5 feet to really get good on the bounce. So
the drip, right? Is what they call it. That's what that's called, the drip.
The drip, yeah. We
drive drop.
We call it the drive drop is called the drip around here with the Pickle Bros. So we played that slower, and then we allowed our counterattacks. And like Jesse said, Ellen was great in the firefight. Lisa was moving around she's got a great forehand dink roll. So it was competitive. I mean, we outscored them 33-10 in 3 games, but each rally felt more competitive and difficult and challenging than I think that score kind of would indicate. So they held their own completely. Awesome. But all of this was in effort to see we were of equal DUPR skill levels. We had youth on our side because of me, but more or less, the ages were not crazy lopsided. And we just wanted to kind of see how accurate DUPR was here. And so we threw this matchup on YouTube, and one of our listeners, Gene, sent us in an excellent email response. And I'm going to read some notes from him, what he said here. And Tim, I don't think you've heard this, so I would love to get your live responses on what Gene from the East Coast, I say the East Coast because he travels up and down playing pickleball everywhere. But he says, it is anecdotal evidence, but I have noticed that DUPR is not equal across gender, geography, and age. Every single person, and there have been a lot of them, that I have discussed this with has agreed with me. I'd estimate a 4-5 guy is 0.3 or 0.4 DUPR points better than a 4-5 woman of the same age and geographical area. A 4-5 25-year-old is half a DUPR point better than a 4-5 60-year-old from the same area. A 4-5 guy from Florida is 0.2 better than the same age guy from Philly, who's another 0.2 better than the same guy from Western Massachusetts. So Massachusetts and Philly, Florida's coming for you. But it was really interesting. And a little bit of quantifier at the end, he adds, he's 64, and he'd be the first guy to say that a young stud of the exact same DUPR and area as him would generally crush him. So, Tim, what are your thoughts kind of to what Gene on the East Coast, very different ecosystem than us, equally as into DUPR as us, thinks about this?
Really interesting conversation. And I've kind of evolved on it a little bit. It's interesting to hear somebody talk about it from a different ecosystem, because I think most of my opinions are framed on my own experience, having played in the Augusta area and then moving here to the Springs. Lisa and Ellen are both fantastic players. And you said their DUPRs are around the mid fours.
Between 4.4 and 4.55, both of them at the moment.
Right. So we have some players over in Augusta, some women players over in Augusta that are around the same range DUPR wise. They're a little bit more established. They have the exact same rating as Lisa and Ellen, around that same area, but they're better. They played a lot of tennis, so they had some of those advantages, like high level tennis. So you can see that in their games. I would say that there are pockets where those DUPR ratings for females are accurate. It's just because it all depends, 100% depends on what ecosystem you're playing in, because DUPR can't really tell the difference. And it's kind of hard to explain. And just let me know if you guys are following. DUPR can't tell a difference between a mixed doubles match in one area as opposed to another area. If a mixed doubles team wins in the Springs, they don't know how to attribute that. They don't know who attribute that to, whether it's the man or the woman. And of course they can't. It's impossible to know. But in some areas, the woman is more responsible for those wins than the man, or equally as responsible. And that was more the case, I would say, in Augusta. You had really, really high level women playing, but they're playing like at the 4-5 level. The man's a 4-5 and the woman's a 4-5. Those two players would be way more equal than here, I would say. Just because of how competitive it is out there and the higher level that the women play out there. And I think there are other ecosystems that are similar to that. But what Gene was saying, I'm sure his experience, I would assume his experience is more similar to how it is here, where there aren't as many established women players. But those women players in Gene's area and here, they still have a high DUPR because they play in strong teams because their male partners are very strong players. And so they still win those matches, and their ratings are affected in accordance with those wins. Those ratings go up. But it's not indicative of how strong those players are in all instances. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. Are you guys following that?
I tracked it fairly well.
Okay.
It really comes down to the ecosystem, which
It really does.
In some senses, DUPR gets a complete pass. They can't connect everyone, but it is hard to narrow down which is, is a Massachusetts or a Colorado 4-5. Which one is stronger? So Jesse, I'm curious, having heard Gene's comments, and also, yeah, what's your response to Gene's comments here?
Yeah, I think that's probably right, what he's saying.
What do you think about now? We're approaching the thin ice, even though I don't think it should be thin ice. What are your thoughts on the physical differences between players, whether it comes to age or gender, in terms of the DUPR rating? So, like, do men have any inherent physical advantages over women that play into the DUPR ranking?
There's some. I lobbed a couple times over the ladies, and when I lob over men, it tends to be more difficult because men are usually, not always, but usually taller, maybe able to jump higher, maybe have a stronger overhead. So there are physical differences. But that said, I think you two probably disagree with me on this, but I don't think that pickleball is really primarily a power game. I think it's much more about placement and finesse. And so you can have a professional player like Elise Jones, who looks like she weighs about 95 pounds and who would destroy any of us. So I think that the strength and power and height advantage of men, it is a factor, but I don't think that in every case that leads to some kind of unbeatable advantage.
Yeah, well, enter the controversy. Here comes the debate. And my quantifier is there are women out there, and I've played against them, who absolutely throttle me. Right? Like, I mean, you put me on the court with Elise Jones or Annalie Waters, and they're going to make me look like I'm in slow motion, right? So there are always exceptions to every rule, but I am going to speak in generalizations, and kind of hone in on you said you're not as worried about athleticism or its impact in pickleball, and I fundamentally disagree. I think fast twitch muscles matter a lot. Men tend to have more fast twitch muscle fibers. Men tend, on average, to be able to track objects through spatial, through space, better than women. We're denser. We've got more bone structures. When that ball comes at you, you're more stable. But also when it comes to athleticism, this can just be the youth attribution. And Jesse, I saw this in our Battle of the Sexes match. The ladies ended up later in the second game, and I think in that third game, really funneling the ball over to you when it came to the dink battle. And they really zoned me out, and I was playing left side, so my forehand was there. And they were pulling you closer and closer to that line. And then if they kept me honest, I had to move back over, and then they'd come back to you. And I just noticed your ability to reset your positioning in your feet was compromising at times. Now we still won 33-10 in the overall thing, but I was noticing that, like, I had to my thought, if that was me getting those balls, or if that was Tim getting those balls, we wouldn't even look off balance, right? Because our lateral movement, our ability to lunge is, and that's youth, but I do think that matters. So when you say pickleball is kind of more, and maybe putting words in your mouth, a skill game, a paddle skill game, how good you are with placement. I think that if you're better with placement, you can really make people look bad by just placing it behind them or moving their feet one way and then going the exact other way, and they can't reset. So I think athleticism is the inequalizer. Everyone can learn the paddle skill, but as you age out, or whether you're a man or woman, or injuries, it doesn't matter. Your ability to move on the court is so significant. And I think that DUPR sometimes, or a lot of people just think, oh, he can hit his return of serve with this slice, or he can hit this kind of a drop. And DUPR doesn't factor in as much the athleticism and the age as I think it should. I think it, and as Gene mentioned, a 60-year-old 4-5 is half a point DUPR in realistic application to the game on the court. He's a half a DUPR point behind his youthful counterpart. Like, what do you guys think about that?
I think the age point is certainly accurate. And Gene can speak to that. He's what, 65?
64. Yep.
64. Yep. I think that's a for sure. That's a separator right there for sure. But I'm gonna be a little bit of a hypocrite, I guess. I don't think it's quite. I'm not ready to go as far as you did, Ian, with how much of a separator it is between men and women. I mean, it is a separator. It absolutely makes sense to have it. You want power. It's not a negative thing to have power. You want to be able to finish points and be scary out there. That's how that was your guys' approach in your match with Lisa and Ellen. Is you were up there, you were being scary, and that made a difference, right? But the best women players that I have played against, they have not tried to play a power game. Now, some had some pretty good pop, but they were really effective because of the X's and O's of it, because of the soft game. They embraced the soft game. They embraced the dropping. They embraced the dinking. And you couldn't attack them because they were so good at it. And man or woman, if you take that approach, you're going to go farther, even if you have some power. Like, even if you can finish the point, that's great. That's only a positive. But if you embrace that soft game and you excel at that soft game, you don't have to be a super athlete to excel at that game. Now, you might take up less of the court, as opposed to the power guy, the alpha woman, whatever that it is. But the best female players they have the exact same attributes as the best male players, and that is they're awesome at the soft game. One of the best female players out here actually just won yesterday the spring iteration of my DUPR league. It finally got wrapped up, and they crushed because she is a different kind of player than all the other women in that bracket because she embraces the short game, and she's like a 4.94, which I would say, okay, that's not universal. I wouldn't say that's accurate. If she were a man, I don't think she'd be a 4.9, but she'd be a 4.5, like a legit 4.5. And it's because of those attributes and that discipline for the short game. That's what I think everyone should focus on, men and women.
Awesome. Jesse, any closing thoughts before I offer up our suggestions to DUPR?
No, go ahead with I want to hear the suggestions.
Okay, so I kind of have realistic suggestion and then dream suggestion. And, when it comes to coding and algorithms, I don't understand this stuff. It's just not my world. I ones and zeros. I can barely hit Control-Alt-Delete when my computer freezes up, right? Like, so I don't really know how complicated this would be, but based on the conversation, based on my experience, based on what guys like Gene say, based on our conversations with our local listeners here in town, I think it is so paramount that DUPR creates a women's gender doubles algorithm, a men's gender double algorithm, and then the mixed algorithm. Currently, all of them feed and funnel into the same DUPR score, which I think is practically ridiculous. One of Gene's quotes in the email he said was, "Men carry women in mixed enough to distort DUPR, and there's a smaller pool of better women than better men. So when women play female gender doubles, it isn't an apples to apples comparison to male gender doubles." And I think that at the heart of what he's getting at is women's doubles and men's doubles are played differently than mixed. Like women's is played a certain way, men's is played a certain way, and mixed is played a certain way. And you can't lump them all in together in the same algorithm. I think it doesn't make any sense to me. And this is not necessarily even equalizing for age or geography. It's just saying, hey, women, I want to see women measured against other women. I want to see men measured against other men. Oh, and by the way, we have this other category at tournaments called mixed, where we have a man and a woman play another man and a woman, right? And so when Jesse and I played Lisa and Ellen, we were having most of our games are men's. We were having our men's games, our DUPRs, leveled up and poised against their women's games. And they play far more mixed than we do. But that's just not one-to-one. Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Oh, I want to chime in on this mixed aspect, in particular about DUPR. So how many of you guys have seen a movie from 1985 with Michael J. Fox where he goes back in time and tries to get his parents together Back to the Future, right? Okay, good. Are you serious, Ian?
I haven't seen it. Sorry.
That was supposed to be a okay. Anyway, so I don't know if you got, well, Ian, I guess you don't know this, but Jesse. So they actually had a casting crisis in the middle of that movie. It wasn't always Michael J. Fox. It was Eric Stoltz, not Stolp, Stoltz. And he was playing Michael J. Fox initially. And as the movie was going on, it became clear that it just wasn't funny. It had the wrong vibe. It had the wrong feel to it. Wasn't very entertaining. It had a whole different tone with Eric Stoltz. And so they decided halfway through to recast that. And for recasting, they looked at a popular show that was on at the time called Family Ties. And Family Ties was a hit. It was great. Now, if DUPR were in charge of that recasting, they would have looked at Family Ties and said, let's go with the little sister. Let's go with Jennifer. Because that show is doing super well. I'm sure she's every bit as part of the success as Michael J. Fox is. Let's go with her. Tina Yothers. Because DUPR can't distinguish who to give credit to with these wins in mixed doubles. I mean, of course they can't, right? Of course they can't. There's no way to know. But that's exactly what you're talking about, is because if you have three separate DUPR ratings for mixed men's and women's, you can start to parse that out a little bit more accurately. It just makes sense. It just makes sense.
It does. I think.
Luckily, they went with Michael J. Fox, and it was a game changer. And Ian, you've got to see that movie.
Justine Bateman, I think I would have enjoyed watching.
Yeah, you're right.
You guys are old, but I guess I have some homework to go do. But I do know what the movie is, and I do know who these actors are. And I think your point is really well made, Tim. It's like, one of the ways I think about it is, let's just say a 4-5 ranking means you are better than X amount of that your gendered population below you, right? You should be better than 7 out of 10. If whether you're a man or woman, I think that should indicate you're better than 7 out of 10. But I mean, controversy abounds. I think most men are going to beat most women. And so those 7 out of 10 women, those 4-5s, are going to be further down the track of men. Like, they're going to be competing with the 4-0 men, right? And so I want to see women measured against their own gendered ecosystem. And Ellen and Lisa are better against their peers than I am against my peers. I actually looked at our rankings here in town. As of when I did it 48 hours ago, Ellen was number 8 and Lisa was number 13. I'm all the way down at number 39, right? So I'm not even cracking the top 20 of guys in our area. Tim, I think, what were you? You were top 20. Sorry, I can't remember. 20? Jesse was coincidentally number 38. So Jesse and I are 38 and 39. And we outscored the number 8 and number 13 women 33-10. Now, I understand that's not going to be completely level against the entire country and all ecosystems, but Ellen and Lisa are better against their peers than I am. And I want their DUPR to reflect that. I want to go on their page and go, dang, Ellen and Lisa are 4-8s, 5-somethings, right? Because I know they're being measured against women. And then when it goes to the mixed ranking, it's like, oh, but when it gets mixed in with a man, they tend to perform this way. Both of them would have better mixed ratings than me. I'm not very good at mixed. My wife and I are not successful. I'm a 3-0 mixed player, but I'm a 4-5 plus men's player because I'm measuring against my ecosystem. So I just think having all three of these, why do we have women's doubles, men's doubles, and mixed doubles in tournaments? And yet we blend them all into the same DUPR algorithm. That doesn't make any sense to me. So DUPR, if you're listening, I know that many of the people, at DUPR do listen to our show. Why are you giving us DUPR, Genie? Which is cool, by the way. It's cool to put in the theoretical match and know how my DUPR is going to be impacted by this win and this loss and all this stuff. But we don't need that. Because all that's going to do is just say, oh, well, if I lose to him and I probably can't beat him, my DUPR is going to drop, so I just won't play the match anyway, right? That's just going to make things worse. Don't give us DUPR, Genie. Sparse out the algorithm, right, to where we each have have our own ranking, men's, women's, and mixed. Jesse, do you have any thoughts on this?
I do. So, of course, UTPR and WPR, these are the competitors to DUPR, and they do segregate out mixed and gender doubles. And the difference in my own rating for men's doubles, okay, in WPR, my men's doubles rating is, I think, something like 446. And my mixed is 38 something. It's a huge difference, which DUPR ignores. Now, some people will say, well, who cares? What does it matter? It's just a number. Well, it's not, because when I signed up for when I signed up for PPA Denver, which is allied with DUPR, which uses DUPR and reports to DUPR, I was like below 4.5. And so my wife and I signed up for 4.0 mixed doubles, which is where we belong. And then I won some matches, and my DUPR went above 4.5. It was 4.51. And I got an email from PPA, and they said, hey, we're going to move you to 4.5 mixed doubles, which is ridiculous. Actually, it was at first I was going to do it. I was like, whatever, fine. Then they said, well, that bracket is actually too small. We're going to combine 4.5 and 5.0. They wanted me and my wife to play 5.0. Well, fortunately, I lost a match, and my DUPR went back down to 4.49. So I wrote them back, and I said, hey, can you let us back into 4.0? And they said, okay. So we played 4.0, and we went 2-2. We were in the middle of the pack. That's absolutely where we belong. We would have been annihilated. It would have been a joke. And it would have been bad for us and bad for our opponents, too, because it's not fun to beat somebody 11-1, 11-1.
That's so good, Jesse. It's exactly right. And in fact, I'll make it even more personal than that. You and I played in a mixed tournament, and we ended up facing off against each other, you and Michelle versus me and my wife, and you trounced us 11-2, right? Like, and we ended up being the 4-0. We didn't belong there. We belonged in a lower division, but there wasn't a low enough division for us. And so what's that showing is, yeah, I can compete in 4-5 plus with men, but I'm playing mixed with my wife. It's a whole different ball game. And same with you. You're like, I don't want to be in 4-5. Like your UTPR is a 3.8. You have a good argument to stay in 3.5. But I appreciate what you both have decided to do. And that is, let's challenge ourselves. Let's bump up a little bit and go to 4.0. And then they're trying to suck you into 4.5, 5.0. And you're just like, hold on. And this is because DUPR doesn't recognize the difference between what happens when you're competing next to me and Tim and Stolp and when you're competing next to your wife. The games are played differently. The strategies are played differently. Targeting is laid out differently, right? Just the entire strategy, pace, kinetic energy of the games are different. And I think it's so important to parse these out. So it took 20 minutes for me to get to my second dream point, right? Like, so this was the more practical suggestion. I don't understand why DUPR can't create a men's, a women's, and a mixed ranking. But my dream scenario is add in those three rankings just as before, but then you need to have a 19 plus ranking, a 30 plus ranking, and a 50 and a 60 plus ranking. So I would not qualify for the 50 and up ranking, but Jesse would, because you've passed 50. So you would say, how good is your DUPR against other 50-year-olds? How good is your DUPR for me against 30-year-olds and then 19-year-olds, but also have that system inside of the mixed, the men's, and the women's? Because as I'll say it again, as Gene pointed out, age is probably the biggest deciding factor in the differences between DUPRs. I don't even think it's necessarily men and women. I think it's age, right? So if you're 20 years younger than someone, that's going to matter significantly. Now, there are anomalies like Mike Lee, who just has decided to not age. He's made some bet with Father Time to like cut him a break. Jeff Ma the same way. Like, just they get these breaks cut where they look just totally fine. But I think that you also need to factor in age as well, because Jesse, you are, and you've pushed back on me, funnily enough, when I call you a 5.0 in 50 plus. You're like, well, I don't think I am quite yet. And I'm just like, just
false modesty.
Get out of here. But you are better against your age peers than you are against the younger cohort. That's just facts. And anyone who's heard any of this and doesn't like it, we're not being hateful or anything. It's just we're trying to speak the truth here. These things matter. Gender matters, age matters, and your geography matters. And DUPR does not seem to either know or care enough to be able to isolate these things and really offer us better alternatives to than what we currently have. I suppose there's a third option, which is it can't be done, but I refuse to accept that. I as often as they have been changing the DUPR algorithm, first we're going to count scoring plus wins, and then we're going to give more credit to the higher ranker Dupe player, which just inflated even more Dupers, right? It's like I'm playing with Louis, who's a 5.18 right now in our league match. I'm a 4.54. If we win any impressive matches based on their old algorithm, he's going to get all the credit. He's going to go to 5.6 because he's playing with this pittance guy who's 0.7 Duper points below him. He's better than me, but it is not 0.7, right? So like, as often as they've changed things, as updates and adding in Duper Genie, Duper, listen to me carefully. You're not giving us what we want or what we need. You're in a position to just absolutely dominate pickleball in the rankings, get everyone involved, but your product has to improve. You have to do the right things, and you're not doing it right now. And you are about to fail miserably because you're going to have a competitor who's going to come up next to you, and they're going to, if UTPR, WPR, and whatever the other one is, if they can actually produce an app that's good and actually have their stuff integrate with pickleball brackets and what's the other one, pickleball tourneys, or whatever these terrible websites are. If as soon as someone cracks the efficiency code and actually delivers what all players want, it's game over. So Duper's got a head start, but they just seem to be squandering every opportunity that they've been pushing or presenting themselves with. So I'm going to get off my rant. Sorry, I didn't mean to go that intense there, but I feel so strongly about this.
Well, I think that was well said. And I think it's just worth pointing out the context that Pickleball Brackets owns these data. They're not sharing it with Duper, apparently. At least that's what I'm hearing. And Pickleball Brackets is owned by Tom Dundon, who is a billionaire. He owns PPA. This is a guy who has the resources, if he wants to create a competitor to Duper. He's got the data. He's got the resources. So I'm rooting for Duper, but yeah, they need to listen to what people are saying and improve their product.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say it again. I said at the top of the show, the Pickle Bros really like Duper. And think about it, as much as we talk about it, we like the system. We like what they're doing. They're just, in my opinion, doing a really bad job. And if we're this crazy about it with them doing a bad job, imagine how much more crazy and beneficial it will be if they actually pull this off. We're on Duper's side. They've been kind to us. They've actually sent a representative to a play around session with the three of us and him. And we talked Duper. We actually know some things that we can't reveal about what they intend for the future, right? Like, and we're going to be respectful. We're not going to reveal any of this, but we know what they want from the future, and it's not what they should be doing, right? So Duper, we hope you hear this. We actually really like you guys. Just clean it up. Give us what the players need. Any final thoughts, guys, before we close out here?
No, you said it. That's perfect.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Pickle Bros podcast. Please, please, please keep Stolp and his brother in your prayers. It has been working so far. They both have been making absolutely miraculous recoveries, and we appreciate it. And we just want to say, please go to donatelife.net to either sign up as an organ donor or contribute some funds to help the cause. More than 100,000 people are waiting for life-saving transplants, and you could very well be the one who could change their lives. So please go look at donatelife.net. We love you all. Stay safe and stay out of the kitchen.